Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Vince McSham with you, and today we take our second look inside the creator studio. Today we're not featuring a creator who does created wrestlers. Instead, we are featuring a creator who specializes in championship belts. Now, this is a guy who has done championship belts from just about every imaginable corner of the world. Whether it's been one of the regionals from the 70s or the 80s or even the 90s to some of the big-time players of the NWA era, even around the world going over to Japan. This guy has earned the name, the Belt King. And today you're going to find out why. Today we feature Sick Boys 1983, otherwise known as the Belt King. All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is our second episode of Inside the Creator Studio. And we got Sick Boys 1983 with us. He is also known as, correct me if I'm wrong, the Belt King.
Hey, what's up, guys?
All right, so we've been featuring different crawl creators. We did Tongueless first, and he does, of course, actual wrestlers. But your specialty is belts, and you do some amazing work on these belts. You find things from decades that I didn't even know about, and belts from territories I didn't know about. So that became very intriguing to me, and I wanted to do a little spotlight on that. So as you start doing whatever it is you got in mind here, don't tell us. We'll kind of figure it out as we go. I know you've got a belt you want to work on, but tell us a little bit about you while you're doing that, your earliest memories of wrestling.
Well, my earliest memories of wrestling is when I started off with Bruno Sammartino. My grandfather would get some of those old VHS tapes and slap them off for me, I guess, to keep me entertained when I was a kid, you know. And then watching Bruno Sammartino and Jimmy Snuka, Roddy Piper, you know, I just fell in love with the whole idea of it. So then I started digging more into the history of wrestling myself, and I got into the NWA territories, and for some reason as a kid, I don't know if this is with anybody, but I was fascinated by their belts. Like, well, we all know that the NWA had tons of different unique style belts, you know?
Indeed.
And just caught my attention, you know?
Now, when you were growing up as a kid, were you in California at that time or a different part of the country?
Oh, no, California, yeah.
Okay. So what were you watching?
Los Angeles.
What were you watching the NWA product on?
Oh, I was relying on VHS tapes.
Okay, so you're one of those people.
Oh, yeah.
So your grandfather was in NWA territory.
I guess so. Yeah, I know I never really questioned or asked him about it, you know? But, like, he would come around and be like, hey, you know, I got this recording. Check this out, and we'll pop it in. And I was like, oh, wow, it's really cool, you know? It wasn't WWF, so I was a little bit more intrigued. You know?
Yeah, that's how I was when I moved to Florida in '86. I'd had nothing but a WWF diet, and when I got here and saw Flair and Barry Windham, who had seen WWF over here and doing singles wrestling and really putting on great matches, it was a nice change, and I can understand the lure of all that.
Yeah, it was a different, well, it was a different wrestling style, you know, and I was intrigued by it.
So, yeah, to your point about the belts, though, you're right. I remember Barry with the Western State Heritage title. I'm like, what the hell is that? And then they kind of they dance into talking to it about a little bit about, oh, it's in this part and this and that. But even with the UWF, when they kind of were at first partners and then bought them out and then quashed them out. But, you know, you saw Terry Taylor come in with their TV title, and I don't know if they ever actually brought the UWF heavyweight title into the NWA fold too much, but there was at least some alluding to it during NWA regular television program, I recall.
If I recall, I think they kept the, I think it was the North American title they used for the heavyweight title for a little bit.
In the UWF?
I could be wrong. Yeah, but well, when it was Mid-South.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know about Mid South. That
Yeah.
was before me. I didn't get into any of that. Didn't know about it. Had no access back then. Now we got the network.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a little bit
One
of
the best looking belts sometimes.
and that's again the thing. I mean, you've had some title belts that I'm like, what the hell is that from? That's actually a pretty cool belt. So
sometimes like it kind of like I trip out because I'll put some things out there and not too many people would cling on to it or like download it, but then I'll get somebody messaging me back saying like, hey.
Can you put that back up?
That belt is now. Can you put it back up? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, no problem, But it takes a while for people to, I guess they do their homework a little bit on their end, and then they realize, oh, hey, I could use this,
Absolutely. And that's part of the thing right now. I think what we do, especially on my channel, it's all revolving around old school wrestling from the 80s, 70s, even a little bit into the 90s. What you do, same thing with the titles. You're talking about an older generation. The game, I think, is more popular or more purchased and played by a younger generation that maybe doesn't know or doesn't have the same interest in the Pipers, the Hogans, the Flairs, the Terry Funks, because that's not their generation. They didn't grow up with that. They don't necessarily have that desire to go out and find out the history or to participate with that part of the history or appreciate maybe that part of it. So we're probably narrowcasting a little bit more to a smaller audience, which is fine by me. But to your point, I do the created wrestlers, some arenas, stuff like that. And I know it takes me a lot longer to get to a diamond level, for example, because of who I'm putting up there, not necessarily the quality of it. I think it's decent quality what I'm putting out there, but there's not a major demand for it. Now, if I were to turn around and make a CM Punk, I'd be a diamond in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's very true.
Which is kind of my strategy for 19. I think I'm just going to either do an Omega or a Punk just so I can, boom, get my 19, then I'll get rid of it and do old school.
Yeah, you know what? I had the same thought. I was like, man, I should just do like one really good modern belt.
Yep.
Hopefully it picks me up, and then just start throwing in the old ones again.
Yep, just unlock your slots.
A race, man. Like I've been playing since 2K15 or 14, and you got to be for belts. It's harder, because for those CAWs, man, like someone could make one and the next guy could make it better.
Yep.
And then with these belts, once you put one belt up, man, you're gonna get tons of downloads, or you're gonna be second fiddle to the first one. So that's always been a challenge with the belts, man. Is you gotta beat someone to it.
But in your case, though, there'll be some, like, if you do an AWA world title or something like that, but you come up with these obscure belts that I don't see anybody else going to get. And I don't know. I'm like, where are you even getting? Because most of your stuff has really clean imagery.
Oh, man, I hunt for the best. I usually, when people tell me to, if they could get a belt for me for this and that, it takes me a good while. Like, I tell them, don't expect me to give it to you tomorrow. Because I hunt around for the best looking images, the best of my ability. And once I get them, I crop them up, clean them up really nicely, enhance them as much as I can, and then, do what I do.
So you're doing some Photoshop work as well then?
Oh, yeah. I clean as much as I can up, and then I enhance it. I do it all through my phone.
No kidding.
It's easier for me. Oh, yeah, I do it all through my phone. Like, I don't really sit on a computer and I do any of that. I do it all through mobile.
Wow.
And, yeah.
So what software are you using on mobile for that?
Gosh, it's on the Android market. It's called Eraser. And
Okay.
then I just use regular Photoshop. And if I have to put another photo on top of another one, I use one called, it's called Layer Photo. Or if I got to color something, I forget the one that I use. I think it's called Sketch, and I color in whatever I got to color in if the color's dull on a belt. And yeah, I get them all through the Android app, and I do everything through my phone.
Man, you go crazy with that stuff. That's more work than I put into mine. Holy cow.
Yeah, I'm very detailed.
I guess so. Well, that's why you're at the top of what you do, and that's why Tongueless is at the top of what he does. And
yeah.
One of these days I want to do a special on you guys doing the Photoshop end of things, because that's really, I think, where a lot of the magic lies with the best creators is I'm decent with Photoshop, but Tongueless, man, shocked the heck out of me. And I don't know if you saw that stream, but he gets his. I'm like, you're getting these great facial scans from guys from the 70s, and I can't find a clean picture like that with the lighting right and everything. And he's taking them directly off of the network. It's like when someone's doing an interview, he does a screenshot and he cleans it up like you're saying and all that. And I'm like, man, it's so clear, though. It's like amazing.
Yeah, man, that guy does it. He does an excellent job. I don't, because I tried doing that. For some reason, I can't do faces. Like, I have a hard time doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'll just stick to my belts.
Well, you're number one in belts, no doubt about that. So let's see. Don't tell us what we're doing today, but I know you got something in mind.
Yeah.
So
it's one I've seen it up before, and other people have uploaded, but nothing as clean that I have. It's been kind of rusted down on some of the ones that I've seen out there.
Okay.
But I found something very clean and brand new looking, so that's what I wanted to do.
Go for it.
If you could, though, I have no control over the screening.
Oh, let's see what happens now. How about now?
Let's see.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. Nice. Okay. And by the way, I never really hardly use any of the plates.
That was one of my questions. Now, this is the first year that's been an option, though, correct?
Yes, this is the first time, and I thank God that it is like that, because I couldn't stand not having to remove some of these plates. Let me see here. Because
in past years, what you would have to do is, let's say it was a black leather belt, you would put first down a large black shape just to make the whole belt black and try to match that as well as you can. Then put your image on top of the belt and hope that no one notices the edges.
Exactly. And that has always been a pain.
Now, what surprises me is when you remove all the plates and put the stuff on that you're going to put on, a lot of times it still looks like the plate's there. It has a 3D effect almost.
You know what? To me, those plates really don't serve a purpose. They kind of get in the way a little bit.
Yeah, well, again, the stuff you're doing, all of the patterns they have don't match any of that stuff.
No.
One thing about the NWA, a lot of their plates were very similar. Like, that's very similar to the Florida State Championship.
Oh, yeah.
In design and everything. But that, again, it was the NWA. Therefore, that makes sense. That it would be almost the same thing, just different state or different territory and region.
Not only that, it was just like, also, too, like, you couldn't tell really the Southern Belt, and then there was the AWA Southern Belt. Just different color. It was just, I think it was like a black texture instead of a red one.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really weird, like how their belts were the same, but they did little things to tweak it. Let's see here.
Now, with something like this, again, that image being as clean as it is, that was off of like a random website, or was it off of a belt maker's website? Like, I've gone to, what's his name? Mike and
I'll tell you my little secret. eBay.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, man. These people sell stuff on eBay, wrestling belts.
Yeah, I wouldn't even thought of that.
And they're very clean. And I'll take them, and then start cropping and cleaning up.
Well, let's see. Last time out, Tongueless told us about taking screenshots from WWE Network, which was a shocker. Now you got eBay.
eBay's really been eBay, and sometimes YouTube. Someone will post up a belt that they ordered, and then they'll show it off.
Yep.
But half the time it's been eBay, believe it or not. Isn't that funny?
Would not have guessed.
Yeah.
Now, the Southern Heavyweight Wrestling Championship, this title that we're looking at right now was NWA, correct?
This is the Georgia. Well, this one was used for Georgia, but it was also used for Florida as well.
But this was under the NWA banner at the time, correct?
This was under the NWA banner at the time. Yeah.
And Georgia, like in the Florida Championship, their home arena was pretty much Eddie Graham.
Yes.
What did Georgia have? Do you know?
No, I can't tell you that one on top of my head.
Yeah, me neither. So who were some of the guys that held this title as far as you know?
I know Ric Flair held this one.
That would have been when he was still heavy.
That was when, yeah, he was fat and he had those weird hippie trunks. Those they're kind of like multicolored.
Yeah, when he thought he was Dusty's nephew or something.
yeah, it was really bizarre.
Oh gosh.
And I think I could be wrong, but I think Harley raced too at one time.
Wow. Well, there's some heritage for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a belt that you wanted to make that you could not find good images for?
Yeah, that was the North American NWA title, the one that was used by Jeff Jarrett when he appeared on Raw.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
I've been for the last, I want to say the last maybe like 43 years I've been trying to find that belt and no success. Well, there you go. She's done.
It's so much easier doing belts than it is doing cause.
What's that?
It is so much easier making belts than it is cause, man. It's like as long as you get a nice, clean image. The hard work really is all the stuff you did prior to this. I mean, finding the image, cleaning it up, layering it.
Yeah. You know, if I find what I'm looking for, it'll take me about 25, 30 minutes to get it the way I want it. But if it's something hard, you know, it's a whole lot more difficult. I'll show you some of the North American title that I was talking to you about.
Okay.
That I found. Man, dude, I was so happy when I found this image. It's not the best, cleanest image, but it's the best one. You won't find another one. You know what I mean?
But this is the belt that Jarrett wore on Monday Night Raw, you said, when he came on?
Yeah, when he came out representing the NWA. That terrible storyline.
What? Wait a minute, now I'm confused. Jarrett on Raw?
Yeah, it was just Jarrett's when it was the Invasion time period.
With WCW, you mean?
No, WWF. No. Yeah, Vince McMahon thought it was a great idea to have the NWA infiltrate WWF, and it was a flop.
I was going to say, I don't even recall that happening.
Yeah, that happened. That was when, it was Jeff Jarrett. Who else was it? I think Bradshaw was playing, like, he was like a blackjack knockoff.
Yeah, well, he was into WWE, too.
Yeah.
It was him and Wyndham as blackjacks?
Yeah, you're right.
That was like a fart on a bus trip.
And then the Rock and Roll Express was on there?
Yeah, but they were Smoky Mountain at the time, though.
Yeah, but they crossed over to WWE for that one time period. So here's the belt I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
This is the North American title.
Gotta admit, I don't recall seeing that one.
Yeah, that's they awarded it to Jeff Jarrett on Raw. It was used again on like independent circuit. They defunct it out for the NWA falling apart. So it was handed down for a while to a little independent circuit, and then they made another one to a more modern one. But this one was when I first saw it on Raw, I was like, oh wow, that looks that's pretty tits, you know?
Yeah. All right, so out of all the belts that you've made, which one is your favorite?
I'm really proud of my big gold.
Okay.
I know it's probably not as unique, but I guarantee you, this one here, I guarantee you will not find a better big gold out there. During gameplay, this belt is gorgeous.
It's always been one of my favorite. I do not own a belt. I thought about many occasions getting one just to put it up on the wall or something like that. And if I was going to, that's the one I'm going to get because to me, that was always the greatest championship title I've ever seen. I think the WWF with the wings was close, but to me, this just said, world champion.
This is beautiful, man.
It really is.
And there's a lot of different big golds out there that people messed around with. But if I promise you guys, if you download this one and you have it, during gameplay, this baby shines, and you can see every detail in the belt during the gameplay. And this belt took a lot of work to do. As you can see here, I layered this. I took different images from every gold belt that had a clean image of detail.
Right. Took the best of this and the best of that.
Right. So I wanted a little bit more silver where it said World Heavyweight Champion. A lot of the belts were like too shiny or too brown. So I wanted something right in the middle. The flare plate, it hided up the jewels a little bit better. The little wrestling guys on the side. This took. I even cropped the crown.
Wow.
For the nickel plating around the crown, so it could stand out, and I even separated the jewels.
Dude.
Got a good looking jewel, and I just started putting them around all over the place. So this bad boy took a lot of work.
But look at that detail. I mean, what you just showed right there, that reminds me of what Tongueless does with the created wrestlers, is what you've just done with the belt.
Yeah. Hey, I'm telling you, when this belt first appeared, when Ric Flair had it, when he was showing it on TV.
Yes.
When you have gameplay, when you're playing and using it, this belt looks brand new, just like how Flair had it the first time. You even got the maroon strapped. Throughout the years, it just turned and looked black, but I wanted to give it that original strap color.
I remember when Flair was still somewhat active wrestling in WWE. It might have been about the time he was the Intercontinental Champion, and he had the match with Hunter on Raw in the main event where he almost took the title back. And then it went off the air, and if you get I think it was the Nature Boy Ric Flair DVD collection, whatever it was, afterwards Hunter comes back out. They do this whole, bowing thing to the crowd, and you kind of celebrate Flair for the moment, and they put the belt on Flair's shoulder at the end. That was this championship. It was the actual Flair belt because Flair brought it with him to the arena that night for Hunter to wear out.
Yeah.
As opposed to the replica they had been using. So for that one night, he actually wore the Ric Flair belt into the ring.
Yeah, it was a sight to see. I remember when I first saw this, I forgot who it was. It was Bobby the Brain?
Oh, Bobby.
Or was it Gene Okerlund? And they're like, they had to black out the belt because he was the real World Heavyweight Champion. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that is so cool.
Until you go to the arena live and realize he's holding a tag team championship belt up.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget the Vegas belt that they made out too. Do you remember that one when they had when he was in Vegas shot and they didn't have the legal rights anymore to show that belt, so they made a Vegas belt on it. I don't know if I have that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't recall that part. I just know that Dillinger had gotten the belt back from Flair, and there were lawsuits involved and lawyers involved that if you show it on TV anymore and blah blah blah, and they had to give him back his money, whatever he put down as security deposit or whatever the deal was. But then they already had the storyline running where he had the belt, so they had to come up with something for that, and that's when they came up with the blurring or distortion of the belt. But him and Hogan, after like 2 weeks of blurring the belt, had a match here in Daytona. And sure as hell, I'm going to be there. I got to see this. And he comes out, and it's like, damn it, man, it's a tag team championship title around his waist.
Right?
No wonder you're blurring it.
The Middle Atlantic.
That's a nice one. North Carolina, Virginia.
This is another, you're not going to find another cleaner version than this.
Well, you're not even going to find this because it's got the Rebel flag, and we can't put that on the internet.
Well, let me tell you something, old school. I found a loophole.
Oh, what's that?
2K to do this, and I'll show you right now.
Oh, I think I see where we're going.
I cropped out the flag, colored it in red. If you can see down
right.
then I cropped out the Rebel flag and I just uploaded them separately, and then I just put them together.
Nice.
Right over here.
Now, if you were to put the belt up, though, can you put the belt up in?
Yep, no complaints. I had not had any.
Oh, wow.
Nothing.
Well, how about that?
Yeah, so I I think the initial thing is just the upload. They if it goes past that, I think you're a green light to go.
See, the funny thing about all this stuff is like you can't watch a Dukes of Hazzard anymore, by the way.
Yeah.
Slavery was around 204 years. The rebel flag was around for the last 4 years of it.
Mm-hmm.
So saying that the rebel flag has anything to do with slavery is just pure ignorance. But we live in a world right now that is so full of it.
It's a different time right now.
It's a scary time.
It's another little doozy over here. Another one that's been a good hit that a lot of people have enjoyed was my North American title. I think that was the first belt I did that took people's attention.
That is looking pretty sharp. Now, was this another eBay?
This was another eBay.
Damn.
And there she is.
That is clean, though. That really is sharp.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
North American title, where was this
beautiful.
title defended? What promotion?
This was Mid-South.
Mid-South?
That's now was UWF turned into.
Got it.
And they still use this belt after they changed brand names. But what's his name?
What?
Magnum TA
Magnum.
was known for holding this title the most or the longest. So, and this is just that belt was just or what's his name? Terry. What's his name?
Terry Taylor.
Terry Taylor. He held this belt too, and I think he was the first time I seen this belt. It was on Wrestling Illustration. Remember that magazine?
Yep. Pro wrestling.
And I remember as a kid I turned and I looked. I'm like, damn, that's a big belt. I think that was the biggest belt I've ever seen. But it was beautiful, you know?
And even as you're saying that, when I'm looking at this thing and I realize it's Mid-South, and I'm thinking to myself, there's a commonality there in the sense that, like you're saying, that especially that center plate is huge. And then if you look at the UWF title, I mean, that thing was just a slab of metal.
Yeah, it was a slab of metal. You're right.
I mean, Dr. Death Steve Williams, a pretty girthy guy, and that belt still looked big on him.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that belt was huge too. But this belt was just golden when I first saw it, and so I was like, this was actually one of the first ones I made. And then right after that was my NWA World Heavyweight title. That one got a lot of downloads too, the most. Once again, just having a clean look. And that it had that old. There it is. It had that old school. As you can see, I also have the one on the right of it with all the pins on it.
Why do I not recall seeing that?
But this one here got a lot of love. There's a lot of these out right now, but it looks like old rusted gold. You know, it looks like it's been handed down. For me, you could actually feel Harley Race holding onto this belt.
Yeah, I can see that. Now, is this another one that you kind of piecemeal together?
No, this is...
Wow, that's one shot.
That's one shot, and I just cropped it. To me, it was... The color was perfect. It looks... some of the ones that are out right now, they're plated, and they look all shiny.
Yep.
This one looks like it's gold.
Yeah, that NWA dome is what caught my attention. That's why I thought maybe that was done separately, but it's all one shot.
No, sir. That's one shot. And it's a beautiful color, too.
Yep. It definitely pops, and it gives it that 3D effect.
It sure does. And I was like, this is it. This is gonna be my ticket.
I'm gonna be a contender.
I'm gonna be a contender, right?
So what's the difference between those two NWA World titles, though? I never noticed that one. I have not noticed before with all those pins.
Oh yeah, what's his name? I think Jack Briscoe.
This is going back to the Briscoe days.
Yeah, this one was right after the previous one we just saw.
Mm-hmm.
It was this one that was given. It was noted that Harley Race hated this belt.
Why?
A lot. He said it was just so fucking ugly.
But it wasn't much different. This is the one he held?
This is the one that was, the previous one was retired, and then this one was the newest one, I want to say, and that was given down to, I think it was Jack, and but Harley Race wasn't a big fan of this belt or the other one. Funny, he actually preferred the old school NWA belt.
What's the old school NWA belt?
Well, the old one was let me see if I have it. I don't think I do or not. I think I've been wanting to get around to making that, but I haven't.
For me, this is the old school NWA belt right there. That's all I've ever seen is that, and then of course Big Gold.
I think no, it was this one.
Yeah, I've never seen that one.
This is what it was before.
Really?
Yeah.
That looks more modern.
Well, this was a modern belt that I found. I couldn't find original plating of it. The original plating has the globes in, I think were rounded globes. They didn't have any printing on them. It was just kind of like a dome on each one. But this is kind of like a revised version of the old school one. But this was a good idea what it looked like back then. And this is the belt that Harley Race preferred.
Yeah, I can see why, because that's a nice belt right there, and that's the first time I'm seeing it.
Yeah, yeah. And then it was the dome one, which he didn't care for at all. He called it a sorry excuse of a belt. You know, those were his words.
Well, I'll say one thing. When you're in the, Northern East and growing up with all the WWF titles and, that Bob Backlund belt, for example, after Billy Graham smashed the other one up, where it had the big metal plate in the middle and, the green one there, the WWF World Championship. That was pretty impressive. And then you go into the Hulk Hogan days and all those titles that Hogan had, they all looked awesome. And you had the wing gold and all that kind of stuff. And then when I looked at that NWA thing, I was like, what the hell is that? A belt buckle or is it an actual belt?
Yeah. I'll give you that one that you're talking about. The big green belt.
Yeah, I remember when that rolled out because Billy Graham had smashed up, as I recall, the Bob Backlund belt against a ring post, I recall, on TV.
Yeah, he smashed it with his hands.
Yeah, then he started tearing it off and stuff. Yeah, man, it was brutal. There's only been 2 times I've seen that happen. It was that one and then Greg Valentine doing it to the Intercontinental title after losing the cage match.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you bring that up because, I remember when I was watching that I think this was it.
When, that's it.
Superstar was just destroying this belt. I remember just Bob Backlund crying.
Yes.
Why?
Yeah,
why?
yep.
Acting like a nut,
And then you have to ask yourself, was he really acting?
Oh, yeah. Well, if it was probably the worst ones I've seen. It was bad.
Well, it was better than his normal interviews, man. It's like back when we were young and watching, we loved Bob Backlund, man. We were all in on Backlund. We were also into amateur wrestling. We were in high school, stuff like that, so we could appreciate his style. But now when you go back and watch those interviews, it's like, this guy held the belt for 6 years? Really?
Oh, God, look at Bruno Sammartino. That guy was just as bad.
Yeah, but you know what? Bruno was a New Yorker. He had that whole, something, you sorry son of a nothing. I'm going to come out there and I'm going to... Bob Backlund was just, oh, gee, I really, really hope everybody out there, gosh, golly, I really hope everybody gets out there and supports me. I'm fighting for all of you. And it was just like, back then it worked for us. But I'm looking at it today going, oh, my God, this guy was the champion for 6 years with that promo.
That actually went on. Yeah, here is a really rare belt that I'm also proud of. The North American Heavyweight title, WWF had. The first champion and only champion to hold this belt was Ted DiBiase.
Okay. Oh, I remember. Yes, I have seen on the network some old DiBiase at the Garden with that belt.
Yep. And this is, you won't find this. I found this. Gosh, man. I had to switch my servers around, so I went through a Japan server on the web, and the Japanese, man, they love their belts just as much as anyone else I know. And this, of course, I couldn't understand any of the writing or the texting, but I found this image, and I was like, holy crap, that's like the best image I could find of this belt. and I took advantage of it. But you know, once again, like we were talking about earlier, not a whole lot of people know about bouts like this that have only existed maybe for what, one show, if that. You know, this one is lost in history.
Well, and that's part of the thing I've
And
always liked about what I do on the YouTube channel is reliving history. Because today's product, not for nothing, I mean, they have all the talent in the world, but I don't know what's up with the writing staffs. They just don't get it.
it's bad. Yeah, I can't.
You're being kind.
Yeah, I am being kind, because I can't even, you know, I'll give it a shot here and there, but then I'm like, you know what, this is just so bad. It's, even my wife is like, what is this crap?
Yeah, it's way too soap opera, not enough wrestling, and it's sad. I'll tell you right now, the saddest thing about it is the women's division is so much better than the men's division.
Yes.
Because they don't waste a ton of time on the drama, believe it or not. I mean, they still have their share, but even then, it's better drama because, I don't know, it's like I coach girls for 15 years, so I'm telling you right now, some of that catty stuff is real. It works.
Yeah, it is. And you feel it too, you know?
Yeah.
And not to mention the wrestling talent's better. Charlotte is amazing.
Oh, my God.
I always enjoy watching her.
Charlotte, Bailey. I don't like Sasha Banks a whole lot personally, but she can wrestle. Won't take that away from her.
Yeah.
I still hold her responsible for what happened to Paige.
And here's an old rare Hogan belt that you won't see too much. He only used it for like promo pictures.
I recall the one because it has his picture on it. Yeah, I remember. I feel like he did an interview or a couple promos, like maybe for the Garden or Boston or something like that, where he had that over his shoulder or something.
Yeah, it wasn't used very often, but I saw it and I thought it looked cool, and I was like, man, I got to put these up so people could, you know, jog people memories and
or get them to ask questions.
Or ask questions, you know.
What's the international title there?
Yeah, that one was used when they did a little thing with Japan, and this belt stood in Japan. They, I forgot who dropped it, but I forgot who was the wrestlers who dropped the title over there. But this belt was only shown one crossover. I think it was all Japan wrestling, and it never resurfaced again. So it was like one of those one-time matches that they put up together, and they made this title for that particular match, and never seen again. Never left Japan.
Wow. Well, that's one thing about the old, 70s and 80s when the WWF went over to Japan and had the co-promotional stuff going on. There's matches of Hogan, and he can wrestle. I mean,
he actually moved.
No, and had wrestling moves, and he wasn't bad at it. I mean, he was no Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, but he could wrestle. And the questions were coming out. It's like, why the hell did you not do it in North America? And he's like, they wouldn't let me. They said I didn't need to, which is true. He didn't need to. He got over. Obviously, he didn't need to. But it wouldn't have been bad if he could wrestle too, would it?
Some of those best matches are Hogan when he was in Japan.
Yeah, they talk about Cena and the moves of doom. It's like, what Hogan have? A clothesline, a leg drop, elbow drop. It's over.
The big boot. That's it.
Yeah, man.
Was it the double axe hand, and that was it?
Hulking up.
Hulking up. I always, the best person who did the best hulking up was Bruno Sammartino.
Yeah.
I always love it when I used to see that guy like get all fouled up and he would just start kicking the guy in the butt around the ring. I always thought my grandfather got a big kick out of that. He was like, oh, look, he's kicking that puck around.
See, that was my great-grandfather. You could not tell him anything wasn't real about this. He'd be in the living room watching it on a Saturday morning. I'd be in the kitchen with my grandmother or something. And he'd be in there, and he's Italian and still had his accent and everything from the old country. He'd be like, the son of a bitch, the dirty bastard, he's a cheater. He's a cheater bastard. We just let him go, man. So I'm looking at this belt you got up here. That is incredibly clean.
Yes.
And I kind of stole that belt pattern for the AWA America's title I had to create because I really didn't have anything for them.
Oh, I got an AWA American title if you need it.
Well, if you got it, yeah, I can definitely grab one.
Yeah, I have it on my other profile, but I'll upload it for you.
Cool.
It's the AWA American title. That's another belt that's really hard to come by.
Now, Was that title around for a while, or is it only there once Slaughter got there?
I think it was just there when Slaughter got
Yeah,
there.
because I was going to say, I'd never heard of it before Slaughter.
Yeah. And that, too, disappeared.
Right about time Slaughter left.
Yeah.
It was there for a cup of coffee.
That was it. Just say hello. And then we got the other United States title.
It's probably had more life on my channel than it had in real life.
Yeah, really. And I always tell everybody, if you guys are always looking for something, just message me.
Now, is that it?
Get back to people. No, though. This is another NWA United States Heavyweight
Damn,
title.
that's a good-looking belt.
And another very good, clean image that I was able to muster up. Once again, courteous to eBay.
That is such a nice-looking belt, man. So this was before the one that, like, Magnum and Nikita fought over?
Yeah. I love those smaller belts with the, I don't know, it's just something about them. They're really nice and detailed. These are not all too big and clunky. But yeah, I do have that AWA belt. I'll pull that up for you. I'll send you a screenshot.
Cool.
Later today, so you can check it out.
Oh, definitely.
Hey guys, don't be afraid to message me to find something. I think Misfit has messaged me a couple of times, and he actually stumped me on a few of them where I couldn't find anything. That's kind of rare, but
That's probably part of the challenge for you, too.
Yeah, it is. Like, I'll tell him, like, I'll find it. Like, I forgot who messaged me about this one. And they're like, you got to find me the Hogan belt, the world title belt with the red lettering. And I was like, what the heck is this guy talking about?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I remember that style of belt on Hogan, but I don't recall red lettering.
Yes, and the guy told me, because I had no idea what I was looking for, and he's like, it was only used for pictures, for Hogan during pictures or magazines. And I looked, I'm like, I'll be darned. And it was just, he never came on the ring with it. He just did it for magazine poses.
I wonder how many belts they made for him that he never really wore. 'Cause that's two now that we just talked about.
Right, the one with the faceplate. There was this one.
I mean, it's like Andre had that belt made for him that he never really got to win, but he carried it around for a week or so.
Yeah, I think I have that one too.
You got the Andre belt.
Yeah, here she is. I think this is it. Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Were you able to make the strap extra long?
Yeah.
So that it can fit around the waist of a giant of a man.
The giant of a man. And I remember when I saw this, I thought, like, well, that's a good-looking belt. Too bad we didn't get to see more of it.
Well, it was the smartest thing, I think, about that whole feud that they did was they made the belt, because now all of a sudden it felt like, oh, they're giving him the belt. They wouldn't have made one for him if he's not going to win it.
It was a nice-looking belt, though. But, yeah, it's pretty much what I got here. That's the old WWF US Tag Team belt that's
US Tag
not around anymore.
Yeah, no, that's gone.
That's gone.
WCCW American Championship.
Yeah, that's a hard one. People can't really get and the USWA one. A lot of people love this one.
I have not even seen this one in so long. I got into the USWA again when I got down here. They started getting some Saturday morning coverage, probably near 88, if I had to guess, and that's about the time WWF was working with them. So you had, I remember at the time, you had Lawler, Dundee, and Brian Christopher in a three-way, and they had some special match they came up with, and I can't remember the name they put on it, but the three of them were basically all fighting. It wasn't a three-way dance, though. It was like, 10 minutes, these two would go in, the other guy would be sitting ringside, then he would jump in for 10 minutes, and the other guy would sit out. It was something like that, and it was a point system. I don't remember the details of it right now. I just remember they never showed the actual match unless you were there live, and I haven't found it on video anywhere yet, but I just remember being super hyped for that match and really wanting to have seen it.
Yeah, that sounds like an odd one.
It was
one of those interesting ones, though.
I remember Brian Christopher at the time was running around saying, "Hey, you old fossils, man, I'm the future," and Bill Dundee every week after that, Mr. Future, if I could talk to you for a minute.
Yeah, I remember that, man. I forgot about that, Mr. Future. Yeah,
Oh my God, they were
was
cracking me up. It was so good.
too bad those promotions couldn't last a little bit longer. I think those were probably the best ones, man.
They were the again, and to the WWE's detriment. You know, it's one thing to say, "Hey, I'm the king of the world. I squashed everybody. Yay!" Problem is now there's no competition and your product sucks.
That's the one. That's the big problem. That is the worst decision. I'll tell this to everybody. Is that they bought out WCW and ECW and they took away their competition.
Yep.
They got nothing to work hard for anymore.
I mean, there would have never been an attitude error. That was all because he was dying. He had nothing left to lose. ECW was getting over. And they said, screw it. Do what you got to do. We're going anyway.
Yeah. It's a shame that all happened. And if they want to survive, they got to let their competition grow, like Ring of Honor.
Yep.
The whole all-in thing. WWF needs competition, and for a while they've been doing solo, and they killed everything.
It's going to be interesting right now because Vince is leaving. Okay, he's going full-time into the XFL, which he's going to have to do. I don't think it'll last 2 seasons, but hey, I could be wrong.
I don't know why he's doing that. It didn't work the first time.
Well, all right, here's why I'm willing to throw him a bone. It was a cross-promotion. That was a horrible idea. That whole crap about we're going into the women or into the cheerleaders' locker room, whatever perverted thing it was, that didn't work. But the game itself and the twist that he put on it, no, there's no coin toss. You want the ball, go get it. Okay? Little things like that. That was going in the right direction, I think. It was good football. It wasn't great football, but it was good football. But now add this element to the fact that a lot of people are turned off of the NFL for a variety of reasons, but the obvious one being the disrespect to the American flag and the anthem. And their ratings and live gate attendance are dropping in the NFL. And after this opening week in a preseason game with Miami and Tampa, they're probably going to drop more. Of course, those are two cities that barely have teams anyway, but I digress. That's going to help if there's now another NFL. Because I can tell you right now, you are not working for Vince McMahon and not standing for the national anthem. Don't even think you are.
Oh, yeah. He's not going to take any of that crap.
Not for a moment. Okay, so it's going to be an opportunity for fans to say, we miss our football. A lot of people seriously burn their season tickets and are not getting them again, and that's just the way it is. So those people are looking for an outlet, and they, I believe, will give this a chance and will support this just to say F you to the NFL. And God bless. I hope it works because too many of these overpaid athletes don't understand. It's like you're asking me to buy a $60, $80, $90, $100 ticket. Okay, for you to entertain me by playing a game or acting in a movie, then do that. If I want politics, then I'll invite you to go on Fox or I'll watch you on the news networks or whatever it is. But right now I'm paying to watch you throw a football or catch a football. I don't need politics here. I've got that 90% of my day. Now I'm away from that. I want to forget about it. Oh, wait, you're going to bring it back up again.
Yeah. I'm on vacation and you're making it worse.
Exactly. So
yeah.
I think this time around he might, and I think the best thing he can do is what he's doing, which is 100%. He's 100% XFL at this point.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how that all works out. I am interested in seeing how that all plays out. This belt right here was request too, but he wanted it in red lettering. He said, I guess this belt came in 2 versions, a black version, and I couldn't find an image with the red lettering, so I had to Photoshop that one and color it in.
That had to be a little tedious.
It was, but I got it done, and he was like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "I've been waiting 3 games before this one to find this belt." You know, so you know what? I get off too that these guys get really happy when I finally finish making them. You know, I made their childhood dreams come true.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Again, as we're growing up as kids and all that stuff, these belts have a life of their own, and they have stories attached to them. I mean, you can go to any wrestling, autograph sessions with Comic-Con kind of stuff, and pull out one of these belts to an old school wrestler, and they got stories. And it's the belt that is that focal point. The belt has the story. It's like the holder of the memories, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I hate about the WWE right now is that their belts have no personality. It's just the big old W.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Now you're not. Now it isn't about individuality. Now it's about us. It's our logo. Bam, right center.
Yeah, it's nothing special, and I miss belts have different looks to them, different engravings on them. Like you said, it tells a story.
Yep.
And these are the belts that are gonna, last, and we're gonna love them.
And when you look, especially at these territorial ones, they have something about them that tells you where it's from, whether it's the map section, whether it kind of lets you know exactly what it is it represents.
Yeah, it's not like that anymore, man. And I just hope to bring a little light into these things, and people could rejoice and bring back old memories, like this one here.
Now, was that the Samoans right there, and Rocky Johnson and
Rocky Johnson
and Tony Atlas?
No, that's the guy I remembered holding the most was Rocky Johnson and
Tony Atlas.
Tony Atlas.
Yeah, they took him from the Samoans. That's when Albano went to hit him with a chair, and they missed.
That's right. So someone requested this one, so helped them out.
Actually, I think that goes back even further, because if I'm not mistaken, my first conscious memory of a wrestling match where I could tell you everything about it was when Tony Garea and Rick Martel lost the titles to Fuji and Saito, which I think were still these belts.
I think you're correct, yeah.
So that's my first real knowledge of tag team champions was Garea and Martel for all of like 10 minutes until they lost them.
Yeah. But yeah, this belt I was happy to make, and yeah, I just want to keep on at it.
Was this another eBay?
Just let me know.
Was that another eBay picture?
I want to say it was.
Gosh almighty, somebody has that belt to put on eBay.
Yeah, of course these things go for like $500, $600.
Is that all for that belt?
Yeah.
That ain't right, man. That's history.
Yeah.
I was thinking like you were gonna say 5,000. I was like, yeah, I'm out. 500, I might buy that.
Yeah, you check them on eBay, man. There's a lot of these belts that are about like $500 or $600 below.
Wow.
And I think this is beautifully crafted for being a replica.
When I see these belts right now, and I'm thinking to myself, when the hell? Because they keep talking about it, and then they get away from it. But when are they going to do a physical Hall of Fame? Because they need a wing of belts.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they do.
There was so much talk about 3 years ago. It was almost a done deal that they were going to put it here in Orlando. And I'm like, oh, perfect. I can go twice a week if I want to,
Yeah.
And then with the training complex for NXT, and then they're filming over at Full Sail. It's like, of course they're going to do it. And they were looking at some property apparently over by Universal. It's, a done deal. When are they going to announce it? And then nothing.
Cold. It just fizzled out.
I don't get it. It's like if you'll put this network out there, which, it's been a struggle. It's a great product, a great value, but, they were really counting on getting a lot more viewers than they got. This is something, especially putting in Orlando. You have all these travelers, these tourists that are here. Every time you have WrestleMania in Orlando, it's blowing out money, hemorrhaging money in a good way.
Yeah. Too bad.
Yep.
And here is the world-class championship belt. Got a lot of love, too.
Now, this was not the last one they had, is it? Or was this the last one?
This is the unified one.
With him and Jerry Lawler.
Jerry Lawler, yeah.
You hear stories now about those matches that they had on the different pay-per-view Super Clashes and all that. And apparently Kerry was kind of messed up at those matches.
Yeah, that's what I heard, too.
And I really didn't know that. I mean, even after hearing the story, I'd go back and watch the match again. And I don't know. He looks like he's wrestling pretty good to me. You must be damn good if you can be coked out of your head and still wrestle like that.
Well, you know what? I bet a lot of them were probably like that, and we probably just never noticed.
Yeah, maybe that's it. We just got used to them being coked up in the ring.
We just got used to all the coke in the air.
Well, it's like they didn't have Oxy running free back then, you know?
No, no. Here's the beautiful American title from WCCW. You won't find another cleaner version out there.
That is a nice looking belt. Boy, I tell you what, those old belts just really had style.
Yeah, man, they're beautiful.
And they almost all had eagles.
They almost all of them had eagles, but you know they had those beautiful colors. They had this one had the beautiful blue, a little bit of red in the crown there. But yeah, well, there you go, man. It's all the beauty that I have.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to spend with us and to show us your collection and how you make your stuff. And that big gold thing was so impressive, seeing the detail you put into that. I would have never even thought about breaking it down that way, and probably also wouldn't have had the patience to do it like you do. But according to the clock on the screen, we timed this thing perfectly.
All right, perfect.
Well, guys, as you heard, if you need anything, hit him up directly. He's more than willing to help you out. And anything you want to say to the community out there, go right ahead.
I just love you guys. Just keep at it. We got to keep the old school alive. Just message me, anything. There's very little belts out there that I don't have for you guys. So don't be a stranger. We're all in this together. And
what's the best way for them to find your work? Is it the Marvel Wiz or is it the Sick Boys?
No, actually, if you're Sick Boys, 1983. That's mine. If you're gonna search on here, just search Belt King, and all my belts will pop up.
There you go, from the Belt King. Well, thank you again for your time. I truly appreciate it. We'll do this again once 2K19 rolls out. I know you're kind of on the fence as to whether you'll be on that train or not.
Yeah, I'll be on the train on that. And I was saying earlier before this time's out, if I do not get 2K19, if someone's passionate enough, they want to carry on my work, I will email you or find a way to send you all my images that I have, so you guys could carry this on. I don't want these things to fizzle out. I want this belt to stay alive. So if I don't do this, someone that's really into this and they want to keep it up, I'll send you all my images that I have.
Awesome. Well, I got a funny feeling he'll still be around doing it, but it's good to know just in case. Thank you so much.
Let's see if my wife lets me.
That's why you have a little secret account on the side that nobody knows about.
That's right.
All right. Well, you have a great rest of your day, buddy. And tell all you out there, thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked what you learned here today and what you saw here today, click that like button down below. And in the meantime, this is Old School saying so long from ringside.